Hi, I'm Tristan from the Kitesurf Centre, and we're going to briefly go through foil boards and what to look for when you're purchasing one. So the main thing, most important thing, is the size. They're measured by the length and the width, so the overall surface area of the board, and also the volume in the more traditional sort of surfboard style constructions. So the length can be anything from 1 metre 10-ish to about 1 metre 50. The size that you will want or need will depend on your body weight and your ability. So the bigger the board, the easier it is to use, with more volume and more surface area to get moving earlier. It's also a bigger platform to be able to stand on when you're moving your feet around, so it makes the foil less responsive. The smaller is basically the opposite, so it's more difficult to use, but it has higher performance and is more responsive. So choosing the right size is key. If you go too small to begin with, then it's going to be more difficult to learn. If you go too big, then you may find that you grow out of it quite quickly. The construction of the boards is, there's two different types of constructions. There's the more traditional surfboard style board, so a little bit more delicate, but easier to shape and quite lightweight. And then there's the construction which is more like a twin tip, so wood core, much thinner, with an ABS rail, a bit heavier but very durable and a lot cheaper to produce. So the construction has quite a big impact on the price. Some of the more entry-level boards are the twin tip style, because they're a little bit more basic and they're cheaper to buy and very durable if you're maybe having a couple of crashes. The way the mast attaches to the board also differs. So on this board with the wood core, it's got normal inserts, kind of like the foot straps on a twin tip. So you've got a couple of options. You can move it further forwards or further backwards. A lot of the hydrofoil boards use a track system. So the mast adapter fits onto here, and then you can adjust where you want the hydrofoil to sit, further forward or further backwards. So where it sits on the base of the board depends how the foil rides. And most boards have markers on the bottom, so you can adjust it. So moving it forwards or backwards will adjust how early the foil will lift and how the weight distribution works between your front and back foot. So you can fiddle around with it and get it comfortable for your own riding style. Some boards will come with a deck pad as standard, and some you can add it on as an optional extra, and same with the foot strap. So majority of the boards will have inserts available, so you can fit a foot strap. You can either have it straight down the middle like this one, or you can have a left strap at an angle, a right strap at an angle, and then a rear strap. When you're learning, it's probably a little bit easier to use the foot straps, or at least have the front strap on there, so you can control the board a little bit better. As you improve, you may find that removing the foot strap gives you a little bit more freedom of where you want to put your feet, which you find you'll adjust them quite a lot. And when moving your feet around to tack it and jibe, they're not so much of an obstruction. The boards have got rocker to them, so the sort of banana-y shape to them. This one's fairly easy to see on the nose. So the rocker is the same as a twin tip, it affects how it rides. More so on the foil boards is how the board sort of touches down. So if you've got a very flat board, it's quite easy to bury the nose. A board with a bit more rocker allows you to bounce up and carry on riding sometimes. Exactly the same with the tail shape. So a lot of them have got sort of a bit of a flipped up tail at the back. So if you touch down, again, it makes that a little bit easier. And it also makes it easier when you're trying to get the board to release from the water to get up onto the foil. That tail shape and also the shape of the base allows it to break the suction. So some of these boards have got kind of like a V almost through the bottom, only really in this surfboard style construction. It just means that that board doesn't get sort of stuck to the water when you're trying to break it up and get up and riding. That's a little bit harder to produce on the more twin tip style board. There's a little bit of a V, but because the board's so thin, you can't really create that. So these boards do get stuck to the water a little bit more difficult to make it lift up, which is more noticeable when it's light winds and you're a bit under power and you're really trying to pump it up to get it riding. Finally, the last thing is the shape of the rails. So you see on the surfboard style one, you've got quite an unusual shape. So that allows it to not grip in when you're touching down. If you're actually on the board, it's almost like a paddle board where you can sort of carve it a little bit better without it digging in too much. They're always fairly rounded. So that's a sort of basic run through of hydrofoil boards. So check out our other video which goes over the details of the hydrofoil itself.